Welcome, welcome, welcome. Over the Top Podcast. It's your boy HD and the Over the Top Podcast crew. Hey guys, again, as we always say, thank you, thank you, thank you again for joining us on our Facebook page, my private page. Thank you for joining the YouTube and seeing all our old clips. Also, thank you, WDJY 99.1 FM on Wednesdays. Tell your friends, tell your aunts. Tell your church members, tell whoever come and check us out. Cause we're trying to do it not just for us, but we're doing it for the community and our people. Cool. So let's keep it pushing. Who we got on deck? RJ, what's going on, brother?
Man, trying to fight the sleepies away. Get this serious up. Get this.
Hump day,
That's
guys.
what you was
It's hump
listening
day,
to,
the
girl.
middle of the week. Middle of the week. So I understand that. Q, what's the deal, man?
Not only is the middle of the week, it's the first of the month. And ironically, my college just kicked us out of one dorm, moved us into another. So I got evicted.
Yeah.
You said what?
It's a long story. I'll
That's
tell you when the
crazy.
camera's off.
Oh, so when you said you was moving for real. Like you had to move your stuff from one dorm to.
Yes.
Bro, that's crazy.
We moving today.
Like,
Hey man,
Good,
you gotta be ready to move when it's time to move. I guess I don't know. Playmaker, what's the deal, man?
Hey man, I'm great.
You great.
And y'all know why.
No, I don't, sir. Why?
No, we don't care why. We don't care why. We don't care why.
We can keep it moving. We keep it moving.
That's the first time in how many years though?
32. I had to look it up. 32 years, sir.
Jesus Christ. Hey man, that coach got to go. Go ahead.
We'll say that for the sports show. Hey Joya, what's the deal, T?
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Hey, we don't want you to get fined. Hey, man, we gotta chill. Maybe we gotta jump on do stand up and jumping jacks or something. But we gotta pep this thing up. So we keep it pushing, Toya, what's on deck for us, Toya?
Okay, dear Toya. So I decided to leave my baby daddy when I was 3 months pregnant due to him changing his way and I couldn't depend on him. But fast forward, our daughter is 18 months and the first and last time he saw her, she was 3 months. I forgot to mention he ended up moving 15 hours away, but his grandma stays 2 hours away from me. So last year in June, she allowed him to come down to her house. My daughter and myself were also invited to come for 2 weeks so he could finally meet her. We stayed for the 2 weeks. Everything went well. Fast forward, he just reached out to ask to me asking would I be down to go to his grandma's house for Thanksgiving. I told him that's okay with me as long as his grandma is okay. He said she was. Now today he calls and said she'll be gone. Oh, wait a minute. Calls me and I'm sorry, y'all. And like, oh well, my grandma wants us to take her without you. He says she'll be gone for a week or two. I'm not sure how to go about that. He hasn't been in her life physically and she doesn't know them. I was only going so she'll be comfortable. But his grandma is like, oh, he'll never get to experience being a dad if I'm around. He's only in town for a few days, so that wouldn't give him time to experience being a dad. And it's no telling when he'll be back. But he admitted to me that he's going to need my help due to the fact that he doesn't know what he's doing. So am I wrong for telling him I'm not going? And neither is she. It's a lot of missing pieces to this, but I didn't want to be too long. Signed, Tish.
RJ.
Yo.
Your thoughts.
Dude, this situation to me is perplexing in the sense that forming a bond with a child is very important. before you can start taking them places and doing things with them. And I think he's taking that for granted in some aspects, and the grandmother's taking that for granted too. I think there's a lot more to the story that we're not hearing. And I think a lot of that is the byproduct of the negative vibes between the mother and the father. Would I, if I was that woman, afford my child the opportunity to go without me?
Oh,
I would likely say no. You're gonna answer for me, but I would likely say no. Having a level of intimacy with a child or a kid and making them comfortable wherever they are, whenever they go a place, is essential for you to sleep and for that child to sleep. And without that routine, without that level of consistency, that child is going to be grumpy and cranky that whole time. And I just don't think that's a good look for anybody. But that's just my opinion.
Q.
So the grandma wants the dad, her son, to be alone with an 18-month-old, his 18-month-old daughter that he's only been with for 2 weeks and doesn't know what he's doing. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's
his
what I
grandmother.
got.
It's his grandmother, so it's the great grandma.
The great grandmama. But yeah,
Yes.
that's what I got.
That's correct.
What I got. Correct.
Great grandma needs to mind her own business. That's one. Or either mind her own business or catch up, because your grandson don't know what he's doing and trying to force a child on him that he either didn't want or he, like you said, doesn't know what to do. Force it that way ain't gonna do no good, no way, no how. So yeah, no, don't go. 2, maybe time to sign that child support signature. 15 hours away.
Okay. Playmaker.
First, I will say the positive of this, because the most of it is negative, but I'll start with the positive. So I can appreciate the man, after being away for, I guess, 15 months or so, trying to make an attempt to reconnect. I applaud him for that. But everything else is a HELL no. The guy has not been involved, like Ron was saying. You don't know if that's even a safe environment for your child. So as a parent, as a mother, she should be just concerned just about the child's safety. The guy said he doesn't know what to do, so why would you even put him in that type of situation? I understand the grandma wants him to learn some responsibility, but he can learn that over time, visiting the child in her neighborhood while she is there to supervise. Now, the only piece that I will add to this, because I think Ron alluded to it a little bit, is there is a legal aspect that she needs to be concerned with, because technically that is his child too, and he does have some rights to the child legally. So I would say just make sure that she is protecting herself by keeping tracks of those emails that he said he cannot do it himself, in case that ever comes up in a custody battle or anything like that. But my answer to that is applaud the guy for trying to reconnect after was it 15 months and 15 hours away, or whatever the case may be. I applaud him for trying to reconnect, but he has to take some baby steps before he can get the trust to have the child solo.
So I'm gonna take it a little from a different perspective. I think I don't blame the guy. As far as wanting to be in his child's life. Whatever the case may be, where he's not there on a regular basis, we don't know. That's not really a case. But this is more of what I gather from it. This is more of The old expression, when you get married, you leave your mom and your family, you cling to your wife. When you start having children, so now the people that you grew up with that give you advice may not be giving you the proper advice for your particular situation. And it's hard, and I know for men, it's hard for men to tell the adult women in their life no, or this is not gonna happen. I said the adult women in their life, I mean their great grandmamas, grandmothers, mothers. It's hard for men to tell their mothers, great grandmothers, and mothers. No, I think hell, he even admitted that he can't handle it because he never had to handle it. So if he admitted he can't handle it and he needs you to come along, and grandma say, well, she's not able to come, well, guess what? We gonna miss this Thanksgiving. Maybe we schedule a couple more visits with dad. Do the routine. Do that playmaker said. Do the routine with the child. Bond with the child, like Ron said. So now the child is not in a culture shock. One thing about children and one thing about parents, when you separate, you just can't throw that child in a situation where, one, they don't know what's going on around them. Two, they don't know the parents, although that's the child's father. The child never been around the child's father without his mother. So I think a lot of times, this for me, be careful who you take advice from. And the grandma and the grandma do not want, and the grandma do not want them to be together for Thanksgiving. Well, okay, oh well. So I would, and as a mother, I wouldn't be scared or ashamed to say that. No, he's not ready. The child's not ready to go with y'all yet. We need some more visits, more visitation time, and some more bonding time. Then maybe we can visit that. So, but my answer is just like everybody else. I mean, I ain't want to spell out the word, but my answer is a strong, I just distant no with that. Your thoughts, Toya?
Okay, so one thing is, she already said no. She's asking, is she wrong for saying no? No,
No,
you're
she's
not
not
wrong.
wrong.
You are not wrong for saying no. For one, as Gary said, the legal ramifications. If this man's name is on this child's birth certificate and you take this child 2 hours away, this man lives 15 hours away. I have seen it time and time again. I actually have a friend who this has happened to. This man can take this child and go wherever he wants and does not have to bring your baby back, and you will never see your baby again because legally he has the right to as the child's father. That's one. So you have to protect yourself. Yeah, and you have to keep everything as far as emails, text messages, things like that. Save it in your notes because that's what I do. Um, if this child goes to daycare, you need to put in the daycare that no one is allowed to pick this child up except for the names that you have provided that is going to pick this child up. This is what I do at my kids' school. Um, I don't know what state you live in, but in the state, if you live in North Carolina, you have to have documentation from a judge saying that you have sole legal custody and no one else is allowed to pick your child up. It is safety reasons. You don't know these people. You don't know this woman. You went and spent a couple of hours with her. But if she only lives 2 hours away and he lives 15 hours away, let's do the math. If he wants to see his child, he can travel them extra 2 hours
That's
to
right.
come and visit you if you are willing to visit him. Because at one time, the things I think that we forget is that we laid down together to have this child. So at one time you liked him. He did something wrong. You said there's a lot of pieces missing, but he is trying to be a father. So let him be a father, but handle your legal side first and then go from there. He could come visit. He could get a hotel. Y'all can meet at a place so he could spend time with her to get to know her. This child has bonded to this mother. This mother is all from the moment the child comes out the womb, and y'all know because y'all are fathers. You do what? Skin to skin time to bond with your baby. Fathers do it, mothers do it. because you want your baby to bond to the parents. And if both parents are there, then the child knows both parents. This baby does not know both parents. All it knows is his mother. And I agree with Hanks. Great grandma needs to mind her business, because you just can't, as a woman, she should know you're just not going to let your baby go with anybody for a week. No, ma'am.
No.
I don't know you. I'm sorry. You
Yeah.
lost your mind. So
Something happened though. Something happened in that situation. We don't know nothing about.
She said there's a lot of
Is it-
pieces that she didn't write about because she didn't want it to be too long. I'm so sure something happened. She said he changed what he wanted, and then he came back after the baby was 3 months old. That's a problem to me, because I get it, especially if you're young. It's hard to adjust to new situations and be a part of new situations. But if you trust him enough to travel 2 hours and spend time with your baby with him, then you should trust him enough to drive 15 hours to spend time. If he wants to be a father, he will drive that 15 hours or fly or whatever it is to come see, because he's driving, what is it? My brain. 12 hours to be at his grandma's house.
Right.
I had to do the math. My math ain't mathing today. But
Right.
if you could drive 12, what's 2 more?
Right.
What's 3 more? I mean, what's 3 more? So I pray that it works out for you and that you and him get it together to the point where you can raise your daughter together, because you want your daughter to have her father in her life.
Good stuff.
Let me know. Keep us posted. Thank you all for all the questions. We are getting to your questions. We're doing all Ask Toya shows, so we will get to it. We do have a lot in the inbox. If you have any questions, you guys can reach me at AskToya, TOIA74@gmail.com. Ask Toya on Facebook, TOIA, and Toya L on TikTok. But I'm sorry, you can't reach me at Toya L on TikTok, because I had to shut my DMs down, because y'all brothers is inappropriate sometimes. So you can reach me on them.
Messy. Great Ask Toya, guys. Keep them coming. We're going to push them out as fast as we can. We're doing shows. We want to get to them all. We're trying to get to them all. We're going to make it happen. So definitely stay tuned. It's coming. So tonight we're going to talk about domestic violence. And before we do, I'm gonna give you the hotline now, and I'm gonna give it to you again before we close out. If you are having any issue with domestic violence, the 24/7 toll-free help hotline for victims of domestic violence and their families is 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233 to get help. The hotline has trained experts who can help callers with crisis interventions, education, safety planning, getting callers in touch with help, like local shelters and programs, contact information for agencies that provide legal and financial help, as well as related programs. Again, the number is 800-799-7233. So they jump right into it. According to the National Stats of Domestic Violence fact sheet, on the average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused in an intimate partner by an intimate partner in the United States. For 1 year, this equates to more than 10 million women and men. 1 out of 4 women and 1 out of 9 men has experienced intimate partner physical violence. Intimate partners contact sexual violence and or intimate partner stalking with impacts such as injury, fearfulness, post-traumatic stress disorder, use of victim services, contraction of sexual transmitted diseases, etc. 1 out of every 3 and 1 out of every 4 men 1 out of every 3 women and 1 out of every 4 men has experienced some form of physical violence by intimate partner. This includes a range of behaviors like slapping, pushing, shoving, and in some cases, hold on one second. Excuse me 1 second. Technology has whipped me again. Push in some cases might not be considered as domestic violence. So that's where we at. We're gonna start with the question, jump right into it. Playmaker. The number of men, 1 out of 9 men are victims of domestic violence by intimate partner. Does that number shock you? That on the average, men are at a higher victims of domestic violence?
Short answer is no. And I did a little bit of research, and there's a lot of different reasons. I'm just going to stick with just three main ones. One is, I think first you have to define what domestic violence is. I think a lot of times we just focus on the physical, but the CDC defines it in 4 different categories: physical, sexual, stalking, and psychological aggression. And I think when you start looking at the others, especially psychological aggression, which is the number one, you find that you have a lot of men that may be in unhealthy relationships that they don't realize they're being abused. So I think that's one area. And then when COVID came, we saw a spike in domestic violence. And part of that, what they call is the shadow pandemic. So you still have a lot of people who are working from home. So that increases domestic violence because the people are there trapped with their abuser. And then the last I thought was an interesting string to pull was the male same-sex relationships, in which only 26% of men call the police for assistance after they've been beaten to a near-death type situation. So I think those are 3 reasons why I think the numbers are high or could be higher.
Good stuff. All right, Jim, come with you with this one. They say 40% of Black women will experience domestic violence across their lifetime, compared to 30.2% of white women. Why do you think Black women are at a higher percentage to experience domestic violence?
There are a number of different factors. There's an old statement that says when America has a cold, the Black community has a flu. So effectively, when you identify what aspects of that part, there are circumstances that surround our existence here in America that are just a little bit harder than other races. However, there's no excuse. This is a sticky subject for me because my mother affirmed at a young age that a man should never put his hands on a woman. And so when I looked at the numbers were staggering to me. 40%, 30%. Man, dude, I got a daughter. If you put your hands on my daughter, I'm gonna break your daggone neck. I'm gonna tell you that right off the rip. Now, looking at those numbers, those are astronomical. We're supposed to be a functionally civilized nation. Yet still, that's not reflective in the way that we behave towards our women. A nation can rise no higher than this woman. So the thing that we're supposed to do as human beings, Black and white, is to care for our families and care for the women in our community. Those numbers represent that there is something amiss in our community, and we have to get back on track. And what is really, really functionally scary about it is that the divorce rates at the rate that they are, like 50, almost to 60%, a lot of these young men are being raised by females. So you would think they would have that reflective conversation between them and their mothers that you should honor the females that you choose to be with, and you should have an awareness of what you're inviting into your life. So to me, the numbers are reflective of a disproportionate amount of men really understanding what it takes to be a man. And it's not a referendum on Black or white. It's a referendum on how we manage and treat people in our court. Because that's a problem.
Right.
That's a problem.
Kim, I'm coming with you with this one. Why do you think as a society we've been conditioned to put our hands on each other, or women or men? Why society? Why do you think our society condition us as people to actually turn to violence as the first option?
Um, People aren't conditioned to. That's more so. Some parents tell their children, man or woman, if someone hits you, hit back. I saw a Facebook post recently that a mother posted saying, teach your son to respect women because I'm teaching my daughter to break jaws.
Wow.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy. Good
And
point. So
my first thought was, are you going to teach your daughter to fix her own jaw? Because like Ron said, some men being raised by women, and a lot of women will tell their son, if they hit you, hit them back. I won't teach that. I was not taught that. Some people are taught that. Since I wasn't taught that, my one rule, and I said this on the show, don't hit me because I won't hit you. But I'm making 2 phone calls. One to my sister, one to the police. Now, whoever gets there first.
I
That's
wouldn't
the
call
person you
both of
want to
them in the
call.
same breath. You may call one and one
I
or the
hope the
other.
police get there
If you don't
first.
if you don't call your sister, you need to call me before you call the police. Maybe we need to do I need to bring a shovel or something? But,
And it's whoever gets there first. But no, people aren't conditioned. It's just some parents teach their children, if they hit you, hit back, no matter the gender.
Got you. T, I'm going with you with this. According to the National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey, wow, 40% of Black men experience some contact of sexual violence or physical violence and are stopped by in their intimate partner in their lifetime. Why do you think we don't hear more about domestic violence against men?
I want to go back one time for what Quentin said
Okay.
about the conditioning and how parents teach. So my dad never hit us, the girls. That was my mom's job when it came to spankings and things like that. That was a rule that my mother had and a rule that I made in our house because I have all girls. Because you don't want your daughter growing up thinking it's okay for a man to hit them. But some women don't think that if a man doesn't hit them, if a man is not hitting me, he doesn't truly love me. Some women think like that.
He love me. He love me because
he loved me more because he beats me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is a conditioning in certain ways, but we come up from a violent society. I mean, this country was bred on violence. The world was bred on violence. And so back in the day, it was okay for an old man to slap his old woman around. That was just a normal thing. And then you have to think in our community too, when we think about slavery, and that's why we beat our kids, because the master beat us to keep us in line. And so that cycle of, well, we have to beat our kids to keep them in line. I don't spank. It's a thing. That's a curse I stopped. The generational curse. I don't have to. My words say enough. And these looks could kill. And even if I threaten to spank, I do something even worse. I'd be like, I'm calling the services and they gonna come get you, not me. That's what my mother used to do. That's horrible.
Talking about abuse now. I mean, if you're scared to go to sleep at night, so it's gonna scoop you up.
But I think that it is somewhat of a conditioning. And if you're raised in a family that had violent things going on, a lot of men who grow up in houses tend to not abuse, but some do. Most men who grow up in houses of domestic violence tend to not abuse because they don't want to see. They saw their mother get beat. They don't want to see another woman get beat like that. But some men, that's all they know. So in some ways, it is a conditioning. But the reason why I think that men don't speak on domestic violence is the shame of it all, the social stigma, denial, fear, and embarrassment of my dog.
Playmaker, do you think it is an embarrassing that men speak if they getting beat on by their partner?
I can understand how some men could feel that way. I think sometimes men don't even look at it as being violence. It's like, oh, she just slapped him upside his head. He still feels that he is the powerful person in the relationship, that he can take the abuse, or is not really abuse because he wasn't knocked out, but just her smacking him upside the head is a form of abuse. So I think, good.
Yeah, I think too it's a lot more of emotional abuse on a man's side for a woman. The emasculation of it all. That's abuse. When you're constantly putting him down, telling him he's not nothing. That is abuse. And we don't see that as abuse. We see that as, she just nagging me or something like that. But that is abuse. If it's a constant, consistent mental degradation, you put him down mentally, you're breaking that man down mentally. You don't have to literally put your hands on a man to abuse him in every way, sexually abused. And like G said, with same-sex partners, like that number shocked me with same-sex partners. Like even men who have men won't speak on being abused by another man. And in a lot of ways they think, okay, that's just normal. It's not.
Jump in there, RJ. What's your thoughts on that?
Man, I done had women swing on me. I ain't never hit nobody back though, because I got a slick tongue.
All righty.
You can't, hey man, if you bring it to me, I'm gonna bring it to you. And so I've brought it to a couple of people. I've had people actually like look at me and run up on me. But the thought process is this, man. What I struggle with it is this. I hurt men. One of the last fights I was physically in with a man, I hurt him so bad that they put smelling sauce under his nose and they couldn't daggone revive that though. If I hit a woman, what is that going to be like? And I think the thing that we're not understanding is that when we come into our grown man strength as men, our physicality is different. That's the way that God made us. And we're supposed to be protectors, not perpetrators of aggression or violence, man, within our homes, man.
So let's switch it around. What about men that's being violent? And this quick, I know we got to get through, but I kind of want to get what's the mental thought with men not speaking up when they're being abused? Quickly.
I mean, I've seen gentlemen have like mental abuse and aspects of things where you get drugged. I've been drugged. My first girlfriend drugged me. In terms of, it wasn't necessarily overt. It's covert a lot of times, or it's manipulation. It's certain different things that you go through, and you learn how to experience those things. What's really tough for us though is, man, as men, we truly do. Like, I hate to say this, and not to say, we truly do fall in love, and I think men have more of a romantic functionality in relationship to loving women than women do. Because to me, I think it's transactional for women. If you can't essentially, that's just me. If you can't essentially satisfy a need, you are not what they would consider to be a man. And that statement is directly correlated with something that is a construct of the 21st century. What a man is now and what a man was the last 6,000 years is a totally different thing, because you had a different set of rules and how you provided for your family. But that's a whole other story.
You got a thought on that, Q?
No, he said
okay.
He said everything
so
right.
That Q question, huh?
He said everything right.
All right. What's that next? Okay, Playmaker.
Gary got something to say.
You got a minute.
I just wanted to highlight something that Ron just said. I mean, he said that, he had a slick mouth and he had women run up on him, but because he knew that he was much stronger. He accepted whatever abuse they gave him. I don't think he ever reported that they ran up on him. And I think this goes back to what we were just kind of saying, is that because he's more physically dominant than a woman, even though he was potentially abused, he doesn't look at it as being abuse.
He was abused. They beat you, boy.
Yeah, they don't beat on. That's abuse.
No, I'm just saying that we, as women, we teach. I don't know about other women. My mother, you don't put your hands on anybody unless somebody, puts their hands on you and you're protecting yourself. You don't put your hand on a man because a man is stronger and you never know what that man is going through that day. You never know.
What's scary to me, man? I dated this girl at one point in time, and during the course of her relationship, she had a very violent relationship. And I had a little weird quirk about me. After I got through playing football, I used to just like to jump up and move fast, just to keep my, explosiveness with me. I jumped up and moved fast, and she jumped. And she acted like I was getting ready to hit her. And I looked at her, I was like, man, look, man, you ain't never got to worry about me hitting you because I ain't doing that.
But it's a trigger. It's a trigger. There's certain things, I'm going to tell you this as being somebody who has been in a domestic violence situation. There are triggers. There are triggers to this day that when somebody says something to me, and y'all know I got a slick mouth, I literally will stop and watch my slickness because I don't really know the person, especially if it's a man. I'll just, do something maybe smart or say, okay, you got that, because that's a trigger for me, because it couldn't matter what I said. I could have been like, oh, no, you crazy. And a backhand would have came out of nowhere, or a fist would have came out of nowhere. And then we fight like two crazy people in the house. Certain types of moves, certain types of words trigger women who have been abused in a certain type of way, always. And men too, because there are men who, like you said, they don't talk about it, but they have trigger words too of what you can say, or even if they saw it as children, which we're going to talk about next, those certain things trigger children of domestic violence too as adults.
Hey, Ron. Hey, RJ. I've been knowing you for 30 years, brother. If you get up and move fast, I'm triggered too, dude. I'm moving too.
Running too. Like, I'm running.
If Ron get up and move, I love you, bro. And I'm a big dude. But if Ron get up and move fast, we all moving fast. I'm going to tell you that.
We all running. What?
Yeah, we out of here, buddy. I'm telling you that off the gate. Keep going. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Women Health, many children exposed to violence in a home are also victims of physical abuse. One, children who witness domestic violence are victims of abuse themselves or at serious risk of long-term physical and mental health problems. Two, children who witness violence between parents may also be at a greater risk of being violent in their future relationships. If you as a parent who is experiencing abuse, it can be difficult to know how to protect your child. Teal, come back with you with this one. What are the long-term effects of domestic violence? Do you feel that's on children?
So there's several behavioral issues, psychological, emotional, academic, social incompetence. They can become antisocial, like they'll go into themselves, and probably a lot of anxiety, like we were just talking about, those triggers. There are certain triggers which lead to depression. And then, like I said, some kids can grow up to be abusers, and some kids grow up to be the most loving people there are because they saw so much violence in their childhood. It just depends on the child and what help you get the child throughout their life.
Right. Q, I'm coming with you with this one. We'll get you back in the conversation a little bit. So what role as a teacher and a school administrator, what's the role of a teachers and school administrators' roles in identifying children that's identifying and helping children that experiencing domestic violence?
how this child act. Children are honest. Children are honest. Children will go to your school, to you as a teacher, well, hearing from a teacher, saying, "Yeah, my dad, my mom and dad were arguing one day," and then they come back to school the next day and say, "Yeah, my daddy got a black eye," and you just got to say, okay." And you're supposed to tell a guidance counselor. There's a bunch of people you're supposed to tell when that happens, and then there's some people who don't because yeah, you don't need to tell me that.
Right.
When that happens, yeah, you tell a guidance counselor because you may want to get that child out of that situation, depending on where, depending on who did what and what's their status already as is.
Mm-hmm.
But
Good
yeah,
stuff.
that's the key thing. A child will tell you. They will, because they don't know.
Children are brutally honest. They would tell you if they go through stuff. So that is facts. Well, they'll tell strangers. They would. Sometimes are they teachers, somebody they trust, or they come back with you. Can children recover from witnessing or experiencing domestic violence as a child into their adulthood? Can they recover from that, or something that's always with them?
I think each person is impacted differently. I think each person processes those actions that they see. I've seen some dudes who have seen their mothers abused and they become abusers. And I've seen some guys who would never put their hands on a woman. It varies. Directly relates to a person's motivation and emotional IQ. Emotional IQ is a very important part of what facilitates the ability for you to manage conflict and resolve conflict without putting your hands on people. And what essentially happens to a lot of these people who tend to be outwardly aggressive, especially males to females, they can't have those intellectual debates that lady or that significant other is having. And I used to be like stumped by my first girlfriend, and she used to thump me across my head with words and emotions, and I would respond in kind. But I was always also geared to understand that I had to learn how to process those things, and I can't put my hands on a woman. Looking at the question and putting it in totality, it's a mixed bag. Um, when I had a circumstance, a friend of mine who had observed domestic violence in his home, he told me I should have cracked my significant other across the jaw for something she had done. And I thought, like, yo, that's what happened in his parents' situation. To me, that's not appropriate at any time. So when I'm thinking about it, I have to reflect upon it in the world. I've seen, and it's hard to answer this question because I'm waffling, so forgive me. But at the same time, when you think about it from the perspective of what I've seen people be in that space and abused, and I've seen people not be in that space. And I just have not observed it in my home. So I'm thankful that I hadn't. But even if I had, I wouldn't be an abuser. That's just my disposition.
Playmaker and good points, good points. And dealing with domestic violence in our community, why is it that stepmother don't or we don't tell what's going on in the house? I kind of changed the question. Why do you think more kids don't tell? Or why do you think the community don't tell what's going on in the house or in the homes and community? Why is that don't ask, don't tell stigma when it comes to domestic violence? Why is that?
You said the community?
The
When it comes
community
to
as a
our
community.
community.
So just want to make sure I understand the question right. I think if
I
you're
read you
talking
again. I read you again. So when dealing with domestic violence in our community, the question was why do you think more kids don't tell what's going on in their homes? But I want to take it. So why don't even if you do take that answer that question, but if we do know what's going on at home, why the community don't tell or don't react or don't help out in this situation? So more of a two-part question.
okay, I got you. So the first part, uh, why the kids may not tell about what's going on in the home, and I think that for some kids, they don't want to be removed from the home. I mean, that's all they know is mom and dad. And even though mom and dad may be abusive, they don't know where they may be going if they are removed from the home. So it's kind of like a catch-22. And I think when you talk about the community, why if we see things going on, why we don't always intervene. I think we kind of talked about this many times before, is the sense of community. I think a lot of times we're like, if it's not my home, then I don't need to be speaking about what's going on in someone else's home. And I think that's a disservice to our community that you don't have to be nosy and all into other folks' business, but if you see something, you should say something and try to give people the help or support they need.
Good stuff, guys. We're gonna do a round table, round it up, so everybody get a little big one. Start with Toya and run it down. And so how? And the question is, so everybody know it. How can we, as a collective, assist or help people that experience domestic violence that may know that we may know in our inner circle or inner group that we are a part of? How can we be an asset to that? Start with you, T.
I guess it goes back to that question of why don't kids tell? It's also that PTSS that we have in our community of what happens in our house stays in our home. It's like when you have divorced parents, don't go over to your daddy house telling him what's going on over here. It's that kind of conversation that you have with your children. What happens in our home stays in our home. But as a community, as a collective, there are a lot of organizations that help with domestic violence. And for me, if being a part of some of those organizations that help out, domestic violence is kind of tricky. It's hard to talk about because you don't want to offend anybody. But for women trying to get out, there are a lot of silent organizations that help out. I know what was so crazy is when the president did that the government did the emergency alert call over everybody's phone that day. It was like 2 p.m. You'll all get an emergency alert. Well, on the news that morning, they said if you are a victim of domestic violence and you have a private phone, because that's what happens when women are trying to leave, they're in organizations that help them. They give them a private phone, turn that phone off so that that partner doesn't hear. And that was crazy in my mind, but it made sense because you don't want anybody to know you're trying to get out. You're trying to get you and your kids out. So there's a lot of organizations that help. Becoming part of those organizations or groups and knowing and speaking, having conversations like this about it are what I think we can do as a collective.
You, RJ, same question. What do you think we can do as a collective to help the people we know that deal with domestic violence?
Raise the level of emotional intelligence. Debating or having a discussion is an art tool, and I think people don't understand the art of having a discussion. And what I learned from some of the New York dudes is building. Like if I'm having a conversation with you, it ain't got to be hostile, and we ain't got to be at odds. And one of the things that I'll say, and this is what really kind of simplifies things for me, what may be for me may not be for you. And even if you're my significant other, how I see this, you may not see it this way. And I have to learn how to agree to disagree. And I think that's a big part of us learning how to coexist in our spaces functionally together. Raise our emotional IQs, challenge our kids to think. Critical thinking is not a part of the educational system anymore. And that's why you start seeing people they don't have the ability as much to elaborate and communicate in the way that we did as younger children. There was expectations. That's just my thought. Raise the level of emotional IQ. Take these women and men through some manhood and womanhood training.
Q.
Teach your child to keep their hands to themselves.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's about as simple as it can be, right? I said it was me. Playmaker. That's why I said you can make it, dude.
I would say for if you're trying to give support to be patient, it's on average it takes a survivor of domestic violence 7 attempts to actually leave their abuser. So I know when you're dealing with someone that you may think that it's easy for them just to break away, just be patient and provide the support and 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 just don't give up on.
I'm gonna say be a sounding board. I mean, and everybody experience things in life, but be a sounding board to people. Allow them to vent. Allow them to process. Um, but just and kind of put yourself in that position to help when you can. But like Playmaker said and alluded to, a lot of people think it's easy to leave a domestic violence situation, and it's really not. I mean, some people lived in it for 20, 30 years before they left. But we just gotta be as supportive as we can. Tori, I'm gonna give you the last word on this one. Then we do the last thoughts. So, what's your last word? Thank you for helping us do this agenda. This is your baby, so we give you your flowers with it. So you close it out. You got a minute.
Thank you. Thank you all for having the conversation. My last words is it took you 32 years to get a win. 32.
Okay. RJ, last word. Your last word.
Work on your emotional intelligence, young men, young women. Learn how to effectively have discussions without having all out, full out conflict. If you can afford to allow someone to enter the most holy sanctum of your body, you could afford to learn how to have a functional conversation and communication with that person.
Facts. Q, last word.
How much time you give me?
Not long at
Not a
all.
lot.
Okay, well, because I want to talk to Atlanta real quick. Atlanta, the city as a whole.
Oh boy.
Make it quick, sir.
Do better.
The TikToker Keith Lee has went to Atlanta because he's on a tour. He's a food critic. He went down and he was trying to get some food in Atlanta. And if anyone's been to Atlanta, the restaurants there, they are not what we like to call nice. They're not
Some
nice.
of them are, but continue.
Some are, but some of the black-owned ones are not nice. Some of them are rude, bad customer service, all that stuff.
Okay.
So him as a food critic said, "Hey, I tried to call in. They don't want to stop calling. Tried to dine in. They said it was an hour-long wait. But then they saw him, and they're like, oh, no, we can send you right away." And he's like, well, no, you shouldn't have sent my family when they came in. You got people waiting out here, but you're trying to serve me because he got following on TikTok? People are upset about that. Don't know why. I mean, especially people in Atlanta. People in Atlanta are upset because he went on there and said, hey, y'all don't serve people correctly.
He didn't say it like that.
Huh?
Okay.
He didn't say it like that.
People are upset, and people are saying, "Hey, let's." If Keith Lee better not try that around here, Keith Lee can take his behind back to. First of all, Keith Lee's from Detroit. That's one. Two, Keith Lee was a professional fighter in the UFC with a 8-5 win with an 8-5 record in professional fights.
So what? They get to the point. I ain't trying to rush, but come on, we running short.
The point is, Atlanta restaurants, black-owned businesses need to do better.
Okay, cool. Playmaker, last words.
My last word is I know we talked heavily about the physical aspect of domestic violence. Just keep in mind that there are other aspects. So if you're being abused, not just physically, reach out for help.
Okay, toll-free hotline number 24/7. Again, for domestic violence and their families, 1-800-799-7233. 1-800-799-7233. To get help. The hotlines, again, is trained experts to help you in crisis and education, anything you need. So definitely contact that number if you having issues or you know somebody having issues. My thoughts on the night is very simple, very to the point. Be careful who you choose to procreate with. Be careful who you choose to have to be your partner for a long period relationship or marriage. Understand something. When you procreate with somebody, that responsibility is 21 years plus. So be careful who you deal with on a regular basis. Hey guys, great show. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. Continue to support us. And like always, guys, may your next move be the game changer. Peace.